Okay, right, so that's offline for now. Okay, we're now live on YouTube now. Looks like it, yeah. Let's get rid of that there. I don't know why it does this all the time. Take it over here. Where is it? Okay, it looks over here now. Good. Oh, that was me. That's me talking. Right, yeah, so Reform UK keep winning, and the fringe right can't make their minds up. They can't. And so we had some by-elections recently at the local level, council elections that we had. These were by-elections. And Reform won, I think, 5 out of 7, I think it was, or 5 out of 6, 5 out of 7. Labour and Tories have won nothing. They just keep losing. If you look at the recent articles going back to, let's say, March, April, May, you had Angela Rayner urging Rachel Reeves to strip the middle class families of child benefit payments. So anyone who was earning household earnings from like £50,000, £80,000, who are being taxed for the roof as it is, who are trying to make ends meet, or are struggling, or kids to feed, and have got to feed themselves and go to work, and Rayner felt it was actually quite handy to take the child benefit payment from them. Because some of these people, including politicians, but even people on the right, I think, that's just the way it is, can't seem to make their minds up on this issue. You have to remember that people who are doing this, who decide to get married or be with their partner, whichever way they go, have kids, they have to take all these things into account. And if you cut a source of money from them, they have to readjust. And what you could have done is done it over time and said, look, in about 5 years, guys, we have to consider removing the child benefit from you because of the fact that we're trying to find ways of cutting back on welfare. Right? Give it time so people can prepare for it. Not to just cut it now in the next budget and sod you, whilst people are struggling out there. And this is when I think Reform could just sit back and let the show unfold in front of them. There's no need to get involved in that. Labour, as you can see from Keir Starmer in the video clip on the screen, always trips over himself because every time these guys cock it up, they make one decision and reverse it, another decision and reverse it. They've gone all the way around full circle to see where they can actually get money from, and it turns out they can't. In every instance, they've blamed the Tory party for it. You can blame the Tory party for a lot of things. You cannot blame them for the current mess we're in right now. You can't. I just wish that Keir Starmer was honest. At the time when he became Prime Minister, guys were broke. We're broke. I'm sorry, we have no money here. And be honest about it. But it's very difficult to ask a politician to be honest when they have to tell you the truth. In this case, they can't. There was that leaked memo back in May as well. Angela Rayner sent that memo to Rachel Reeves, pressing for tax rises instead of spending cuts. Which is fair enough, because you want to pay for things that you want to keep, and you can't afford them, you have to raise taxes. Bank surcharges, removing the inheritance tax, removing the dividend allowance, freezing additional rate income tax threshold, annual tax on envelope dwellings, close the commercial property stamp duty loophole, move higher and additional rate dividend taxes close to income tax, reinstate pensions lifetime allowance, and all these things. But you wouldn't actually see Angela Rayner mention anything about what politicians get. the cushy pension they get. Yeah, the former Labour MP, I forget her name, it's been like a while ago, when she bought herself a home with the money she was getting as a MP with MP salary. Nothing illegal about it. Then she lost her seat, I think in 2019, I think it was. Again, I forget her name. Another thing she mentioned in the proposals was tighten migrant access to welfare system. It's amazing how that wasn't actually a thing the Tories didn't come up with in the last 14 years when in power. To tighten migrant access to welfare system, meaning that it's almost like we like to call a deterrent from people trying to cross the border via a boat. And all these Tories out there, like Robert Jenrick coming out recently, the tweet like being trying to be like, cute about it. Macron flies out, small boats sail in. Starmer's gaslighting you. What the hell were you doing when you guys are in power? You didn't stop the boats. You kept claiming to. You had this stupid Rwanda plan. I have no idea what idiot came up with that plan. Everyone knew at the time it was pointless. Did these politicians even listen, not just to the voters, of course, like us, but do these politicians ever listen? Or pay attention, at least, to those out there who are trying to come here? Why do you think they're coming here for? And the other thing is, Robert Jenrick, as you would know, and you should know, nothing's been signed yet. In fact, the EU might resist this, by the way. Think about that. This is a rubbish deal, which in fact would benefit the EU. Little benefit, of course, but to us is zero benefit, right? They're actually saying, you know what, there might be something illegal about this. Then you have Sky News coming out and saying, well, this, as Yvette Cooper mentioned about the one-in, one-out migrant deal with France, who couldn't respond to it. Let me see if I can play the audio clip of that.
Haven't decided the number that will be involved in this pilot, because the word was that it would be around 50 migrants a week. Is that the right ballpark?
No, we haven't fixed those numbers because...
But can you give us a ballpark, though, so we know the extent of this scheme?
Well, what we will do is provide updates throughout. So we need to get this going, and we need to make sure we've got the one-for-one agreement that we made with France. Remember, it will also come alongside France's agreement to have this maritime review, which means changing their maritime tactics so that they can intervene in French waters. Again, another groundbreaking change that many people have wanted to see for a long time, and the French Interior Minister agrees this needs to happen. So a series of changes. We will build on this step by step, but it's part of a fundamental change in approach to the kinds of chaos that we've seen.
But we're told that this is going to start in a few weeks, but you still can't tell us how many are involved in the initial pilot.
Well, we do expect, as you said, the Prime Minister and the President have said that it will start in a few weeks, but we're going to build this up step by step.
Well,
we
yes.
will provide updates.
OK.
We will provide updates. I understand, but look, what people want is for us to fix numbers in advance. What we want to do instead is to build this up step by step. I think that's the right approach, because we're going to make sure that this works, and we're going to make sure that we can increase it, and we're going to make sure that we can
The fact that you want to increase it implies that the initial numbers will be low. How can it act as a deterrent when the initial numbers are low? We've been given the sense that it will be in the order of about 50 migrants a week, and given that there are about 840 odd arriving each week, that's a very small number.
So the first thing is that it immediately helps us undermine the business model of the people smugglers, because part of their pitch, part of the things that they say to people when they're trying to take thousands of pounds off them to get into these flimsy boats, is they say, well, if you get to the UK, you can't be returned to anywhere in Europe. You can't be returned to France. That's the rules. And that has been the rules. It's not been possible to return anyone to France.
But if the migrants know that only around 50 are going to be returned, they might think it's worth taking the risk.
Well, what we know is that some people, for example, have been in, not just in France, but in other European countries, sometimes for several years before they make this crossing, and it's not been possible to return people.
Sorry, I just can't stand that anymore. I mean, It's not been possible to return people. I was told the EU was paradise. I thought the UK was a racist country. All these foreign people want to come here. Why does no one want to stay in France? Why did no one even ask the question to Macron at the time, with that smug look on his face, and say, Mr. President, you do know nobody of these foreigners want to stay in your country, want to come here. What's wrong with your country exactly? Why can't you take them in? They're actually in your country. You know about them, but you refuse to take action. And they keep lying to you. They keep gaslighting you as well. They keep saying, these are smugglers, it's a secret operation. No, you know about it. BBC were right there. Remember that video came out on the beaches in France? Those police, or whatever the hell they were, came over and just put their, deflate the boat, but put what a sharp object. Oh no, he had a knife or something and punctured it. All for cameras, by the way. Yes, the BBC just happened to be there at the time. All for cameras. All for show. They'll do anything to try and get those numbers up, because they know that the numbers for the Labour Party are in the toilet. The Starmer's likability is down as well. Reform are up. And Reform are set to take control in number 10, providing they can field all those candidates, over 600 candidates, all probably vetted too, and win a majority to give them complete control in Parliament. But then again, as people need to be reminded, once you're in Parliament, that's just the beginning. We've got power now, let's see what we can do with it. And you'll find there'll be there's so many pushbacks from the system. Forget the whole deep state garbage. I don't want to keep going to that because, people are obsessed with that in America. By the way, Trump is a deep state. I can't believe people haven't realised this yet. He does the work for the deep state. But here in the UK, we have an actual system in place that needs to be reformed. Oddly enough. With his by-election wins, the Labour Party keep tripping themselves over. And yet, for some reason, there are too many fools online, and there are so many of them. That's why I had the title of the stream put this way. Reform keep winning, the fringe right can't make their minds up. If we win, it's bad. If we lose, it's bad. Meaning, ergo, you don't want to be in power. You prefer to be on the outside, complain and whine about the problems, tell people how like it is, like we've been doing for the last 20 or 30 years. I've been around a lot longer than most of these people online. Not because of my age, because I witnessed it from the year 2000 onwards. Nothing has changed on our side. Nothing. By the way, guys, you do know that there was a recent story. There's actually 3 or 4 stories, in fact, we can go on. I know the whole story about Angela Rayner being suspended by Unite, the union, is actually quite a big deal in Labour, but that's still ongoing, so there's not much to comment on that. Sky News defending Starmer. Migrant still a win for Starmer and could help with the fight against reform. That's what Beth Rigby at Sky News said in an article piece. Because it says here, polling suggests that 4 in 10 voters who are planning on going to Nigel Farage's party would go back to Labour if the small boat issue was tackled. Quote, was tackled. Then you had Harriet Harman, a Labour peer, saying even though this view of her is controversial, but just saying to have digital ID cards would help deter migrants heading to the UK. Now, we should all be opposed to that, but here's the question I have for people in Reform and people on the right, particularly those who don't like Reform, who don't like Nigel Farage. I think he's establishment and he's a cop-out. He's leaning left on the issues, which is absolute garbage, but let's just go with that for the time being. What's the alternative? You need to offer an alternative. You need to make a case for this. Not for the digital ID cards. How are you going to stop them? By saying, we'll just stop the boats, which is what that clown Johnson said when he was Prime Minister. And kept saying it all the time. It's no wonder people turn around to someone like Starmer, when if you remember the election campaign they had, he was to the right of the Tories on this. During the election campaign, when they were out there campaigning, so what they had to do. How make it, we have to give fingerprints from people who arrive by boats. You have to keep it on record, on file. We go by the Data Protection Act, we go by everything when it comes to keeping data stored. So they come again, your fingerprints here? No, we know who you are. You came in before. You're giving us a different name now. But the problem is, where are we going to put them? If we don't know who they are, where they're from, it's very difficult to deport them to a country they're originally from. Which that means we need to start working with those other countries and telling them, if you don't do anything here about this, you don't work with us, we're not working with you, end of story. We're not giving you these visas for people to come across. We'll put sanctions on your country if we have to. So be it. But then when you try that, there'll be resistance to it too. This is why Tories struggled so much to do things. There were actually some good people in the Tory party, this is quite a large number of them, who wanted something done about it, but they couldn't. Because people at the top were too useless, feckless, who didn't know how to go about the business and how to actually do things and actually operate within the law. This is why I can't understand this whole anger towards reform when it comes to, why on earth are we taking on Jake Berry? He was a full net zero guy. Meanwhile, as you say that, didn't we just have a story recently published by, GB News? Saying that police officers incorrectly produced a custody sheet for an arrest that never happened, according to the father of a grooming gang victim. Jack, as is not his real name, said that he was arrested twice in 2005 when trying to rescue his daughter from an abuse den in Rotherham. These people on the fringe right are more angry with reform than they are with this stuff. Seriously, they are. Overall, they tend to try to be angry at a lot of things, just as things come up every single time. Angry about this, angry about that. They love Trump too. Trump just signed a deal with the Islamists in Syria, who kill Christians. You seem happy about that, don't you? When there's a grooming gang, it depends on the perpetrator, then you get angry about it. But you're not angry when a paramedic in Scotland secretly gave a pregnant woman an abortion drug, killing their unborn child. His name is Stephen, so I guess he's a white guy as well. Well, he is a white guy because there's a picture of him too. You're not angry about that. You weren't angry about the grooming gang in Scotland, who are all white. Selective anger is what we have on the right at the moment. And by the way, you get it on the left too, by the way, obviously. This is why I think Farage is saying, enough this crap, I'm not going to get involved and dragged into this every single day. The economy is tanking. We don't have enough money for everything we want to pay for. We're in heavy debt. Our country is a mess. And you guys want to be dragged into culture wars? They're not going to work, guys. Because if culture wars was a thing, as you said, we would have destroyed these guys in the elections every single bloody year. But we don't. Our group, our side, has never been in power in this country. Never. Well, what about Winston Churchill? Yeah, Winston Churchill wasn't actually that negative towards migrants, by the way. People from the Commonwealth. You keep mentioning these people's names, but then once you put your policies in place, you realise that those people you adore so much in the past will object against you, will stand against you. What was a story in South Wales? It was said that finally opens after 23 years of roadworks. This country is a fucking tip. 23 years of roadworks. And we complain about money all the time. 23 years, you know what that means? It means the country's fucking lazy. I'll give credit to Liz Truss for one thing only. One thing only. When she said this country was lazy. And she wasn't saying us to get up in the morning and work hard. She wasn't referring to that. In Germany, it wouldn't take them 23 years to do that bloody roadworks. Neither in France. It may take 10 years in France because they're a bit lazy too from time to time. Russia wouldn't take 25 years, 23 years. In America, it wouldn't take 23 years. In China, it would never even take close to 23 years, let alone 2 years. Middle East would not take 23 years. Probably there's no corruption, but there's plenty of corruption there. Here in this country, money, money, money. The upgrade program. There was 2 sections of a dual carriageway. Cost £2 billion. But here's the best line that comes out every single time. This is a British politician response 101. The project has taken far too long, cost far too much, and it's clear that important lessons need to be learned. Important lessons need to be learned. How many times have we heard that? But it shows you all this anger we get from our side is just all fake. Wasn't it back on the 16th of June? Just almost like a month ago now. Dominic Cummings talked about how there were Whitehall officials who tried to tell Michael Gove that he should try and go to court or something to try and cover up the grooming gang scandal. Well, it's an old story. What you saying? That's not a scandal. So we had 2 Tories. Move on to the major story that I'm covering. Let's get all that stuff out of the way because all these things are happening. I mean, Boris Johnson favoured, according to the inquiry, an authoritarian approach to COVID. And he had people on the right saying that the state have got rid of Boris Johnson, the guy who's a compulsive liar, lied every time he opened his lips. So Sir Jake Berry, he's got knighthood, I don't know why, but never mind. And David Jones defected to reform, right? And then we had Lee Anderson say that not everybody's going to be welcome across, particularly those who want to save their seats, right? Quote, not many because they're just be coming over to save their jobs. But let me tell you about the makeup of the Tory party at the moment. This is important because he's been in the Tory party. In fact, I believe he was in the Labour Party before that. He says, most of the best ones lost their seats. A lot of my good friends lost their seats in the Red Wall. You've got 120, you've got 30 wets, you've got 30 who are considered aligning with our politics. So that's potentially 150 there, if I'm correct. 120, 130. You've got 120. Is he referring to friends of his? Good friends who lost their seats. Not 120 lost their seats, but 120 knows that are good. And then the others says they haven't got a clue who they are. They just want to be MPs. So I think they're toast mates. They don't know what they stand for. Now there is talk though. Reform is understood to be considering whether to welcome Jonathan Gullis, a former Tory minister. There's been no conversation between the two at the moment, but that's just a rumour that's come out. There might be that. There were attempts apparently last year to tell him to cross the floor. We're talking about here, Jonathan Gullis. So let me give people a bit of a summary of how British politics works, because there's a lot of people out there who are absolutely clueless. Sadly, particularly those who are on our side. That's within reform and outside of reform, so it goes for both. Okay? You are making as if that every person in the party will act independent when it comes to voting. So if you bring someone who's a liberal and it comes to voting on changes to the system, whether it comes to the tax system, the welfare system, the NHS, border security, you name it, they're going to vote against the government, which is not the case at all. In fact, there's very little, very small cases we've seen in the past when it happens. And there's a reason for that. For those people out there who keep thinking, well, I believe in free speech and democracy. This isn't democratic. How are you going to operate the actual... how are you going to work out or make things happen and get things done in a country like this when all you want is people to be rebelling all the time? Because in the end, it's all about the leader, the guy at the top. If Farage leads, the country does well. If Farage leads, the people back him. If Farage leads, the people in Parliament also back him. That's what we want. If you're going to be bickering about every small thing that comes up, we'll get nothing done and we'll lose every time. And we deserve to lose. Farage at the moment is... How old is Farage at the moment? How old is he? Farage is 61 years old. So when we get to... When is it? 2029, he will be 65 years of age. He will be almost 70 when if he was to complete his first full term as Prime Minister. We really need to start thinking ahead. Because Farage ain't going to be around forever. If anyone who can take over his place, who's as articulate as he is, who has worked as hard as he has when he tries to get Brexit done, or get the vote done, let's say the e-referendum vote. He's been around a long, long time. And for those out there who sit on their backsides, guys, you do realise that tomorrow they could call an election. And we're not going to be ready for it. We need to be ready for it. The other thing we need to think about too is this. What's the impact that's going to be on these guys in Labour, mainly the Greens? Corbyn's comeback, a gift for Farage, a bloody nightmare for the Greens. Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. These kind of quote-unquote defections, by the way, that we're seeing particularly from them, is because they know their seats are on the line. Maybe not Jeremy Corbyn, because he's almost guaranteed his seat every time. But people like Zara Sultan knows her seat's on the line. If a Green Party came in or Liberal Democrat came in, they could lose their seat. Now you see, according to this, more uncommon, which again I don't know how trustworthy these pollsters are. The shift in numbers could see Reform dropping by 1, Labour dropping by 3, Lib Dems by 1, Greens by 2, and Syrian Corbyn and Sultan-led parties, they've got no name at the moment, could win 8 percentage points, which is not have any impact on who wins the election in the end. Right? All these things are happening. The election's called tomorrow. You need to have over 600 candidates vetted and ready. The question is, those who complain so much online about reform, but we don't get anything done. The Mr. Know-it-alls, Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-alls, they know everything. They're experts in everything. How about you get off your arse and go and run as an independent, or run for reform and actually make the change you want to happen within the reform. It's that simple, guys. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. The council elections showed, in particular even those by-elections, that we can win. There are different groups of people. We're not a monolith. We're not going to be thinking, everyone's going to think the same way. We're not going to be in a situation whereby all together think like that. but we want the same result. How we get there may be different, but we want the same result. And you need to stand up for this. So if we have, let's say in January next year, if things are really bad, if things get really, I hope they don't. I actually want the Prime Minister to do well. I want the country to do well. We're not heading in that direction at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen in 2026? But all we know is that tax rises are likely to happen. And boy, are we struggling. Boy, are we struggling. I'm not in the same boat as a lot of people out there who are just trying to make ends meet, but we're going to be dragged into it too. In January 2026, if Keir Starmer comes out and says, you know what, maybe we need another election because it changed, the country is going in a different direction, I might step down, they bring another person in, the election gets called for April, May time, you have to be ready. There's no excuses this time. So we need to be vetting people right now. We need to get people to actually consider wanting to become MPs. You've got plenty of time to do it, plenty of vetting to do it. I don't want to come back to this stream, or this short stream, and then say to myself, told you so. Done it so many times in politics. Hopefully not, but we'll see. So for what it's worth, just be ready. And for those on the fringe right, you have to make your mind up. Forget the grifters. The grifters are always going to be there thinking to themselves, how can I make more money from this? I need to pick a lane, an avenue for myself. So I can spend the next 5 years saying, told you so, told you so, told you so, and repeat the exact same talking points from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago, from 15 years ago, from 20 years ago. And all those years back when people were saying the exact same thing, they didn't make money from it. They actually literally posted blogs about this stuff. These guys post short videos, quick tweets, to try and say to you, oh, it's all over, it's all over, it's all over. They're going to say it's all over now again. 5 years from now, this is the biggest election we've got in this country's history. If we don't win, it's over. Didn't you say that 20 years ago? Didn't you say that 15 years ago? Didn't you say that 10 years ago? Didn't you say it last night? And the night before that? Every single time. Don't listen to those people. There are a lot of bad actors out there. I'm not going to name them. One of them is an MP. An independent MP. A lot of bad actors. A lot of grifters. Don't listen to them anymore. Don't even listen to me. Look at what you can do in your own backyard. Within your own home. Within your own community. Within the county. That's more important than what you think you can do for London if you're up in the north of the country. And vice versa. Concentrate on that. On a local level, take power in the council and make things happen. That's the best advice I can give you now. Because if you're going to sit there and keep telling people, oh, it's all over for us, then why even bothering? Walk away now and carry on with life. Don't waste energy and time and exhaust all that energy and time on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever it might be. Just concentrate.